What's up, you guys? It's Wednesday. It's hump day. Latest edition of Quarantine Workout Tips, bringing it to you live from Ripple Effect. Albeit we don't have people up in here as we normally do, but next best thing is being able to do this. So what I'm going to do today is talk about glute stuff, booty stuff, butts, rumps, peaches,
Badonkadonk.
badonkadonk. You know, all those other euphemisms for this thing.
Hi, Erica.
What's up, Erica?
Aww.
So look, this is a hot kind of topic. Everyone has, even if you're not looking for it, if you scroll through Instagram, if you follow any fitness accounts or anyone, social media influencer that's famous, butt training is like a big thing. Like glute training, it's been a hot topic for the past probably 6 years.
What do you know? Lindsay Shacks.
Oh, Shexy Lindsay.
I know.
Shexy Lindsay.
Sexy lady.
Okay. So glute training is something that's been kind of a trendy kind of thing for the past 5 or so years. So I'm big on training the glutes. I make every single one of my clients work some sort of glute movement in their workout every day. You do train glutes when you do other exercises, but I'm going to focus on exercises that kind of focus more on just the glutes versus like things like deadlifts and lunges and stuff like that. We could save that for another day, but yes, you are training glutes when you do that stuff. So with a lot of y'all stuck at home, working from home, being with limited equipment, what I want to do today is talk about exercises that you can use right now. So again, glutes is popular. Why is it popular? Because everyone wants to look better back here lately. Like back in the day, it used to be pecs and biceps for dudes. Abs was big in the 90s when I first started working out and training clients. Body parts kind of get trendy. But obviously we need to train the whole body. So what would be bad is if you neglected one area. So yes. Functionally speaking, the glutes basically, if we didn't have glutes, we wouldn't be able to stand upright and ambulate, which means walk. So the glutes are important because they extend the hip. So that's one of the prime movements of the glute. That and we've got abduction. We don't want to get all crazy with that, external rotation, all these different little movements. But we want to try to train the glutes in a way that corresponds to the way that they're designed to move. So the glute max is a huge muscle. We've got glute med and glute minimus and other little tiny muscles up in there, but we're going to focus on glute max. But yeah, people want to look, a firmer backside, getting that Brazilian butt lift kind of effect with workout instead of going to the doctor. Moist cough.
Yeah, not dry.
But yeah, so from aesthetic perspective, it's important, but also too from a functional perspective. There was kind of this thing started in the mid 2000s where, and myself included, trainers tend to kind of fall into these camps where we promote certain ideologies that have become kind of popularized. And then a few years later, they're like, well, maybe we weren't quite correct about that. Like stretching got a bad rap for a while, static stretching. So I guess my whole point of that was to say that for a few years, it was like you got to activate your glutes. You got to turn on your glutes because they're shut down because we sit too much. Like your glutes are not shut down. You wouldn't be able to walk if they were shut down. Okay, so we need to use different verbiage to kind of convey what we're trying to talk about. So we basically want to train the ass. Okay, that's my whole point right here.
Train your ass off.
Let's train your ass off.
Or on.
I'm going to show y'all a basic sequence of hip bridges. So y'all can do these at home without any equipment. I might throw in some mini band exercises because I know those have become popular, the bands that go around the knees or the ankles. I might save that for another video. I haven't decided yet. Depends on if my camera director tells me I've been talking too much.
Yeah.
So with a hip bridge, few key pointers because there's tons of different variations that we can go with this. But I'll show y'all a few key ones. We want to make sure that if we're doing a two-legged bridge or if we're doing a marching bridge or a single-leg bridge, you want to push through the entire foot. In the past, I used to have clients keep their toes up and have people push through their heel, which is okay too, but lately I've kind of changed my stance on that, and I prefer a flat foot. So either option's good. What you don't want to do is let your heels pop up at any point and push through the toes. So we want to keep the emphasis on pushing through the entire foot because I feel like I said this on another video, but if you think about it, so you've got this entire surface area of the underside of the foot to push through and generate force and push through the ground. So if you're pushing just through the heel, there's not as much potential for you to like utilize that surface area. So there's that side of it. Yeah, and then I also feel like sometimes pushing through the heels could allow you to hyperextend at the lumbar spine, which a lot of people will try to do as a way of kind of faking hip extension. So I guess it's important to say too, if you have any restrictions in mobility or your ability to extend the hip, so if the front sides of your hips are tight, like if you go into a half kneeling hip flexor stretch and like you can't get fully upright right here, then it will pay off to do a little bit of like soft tissue work if you've got like a rumble roller or just a plain old foam roller. Of course, I'll recommend
Before doing these
roller
exercises?
Yes.
Okay.
So address that kind of interior hip tightness. Better yet, get your spouse to kind of do a little massage on you. But yeah, a stick roller, I mean, shit. In the past, like when I've been at clients' houses years ago, I think it was Mary Ann's house, we used a, what's that? Rolling pin.
I was going to say.
Because she didn't have a foam roller at the time.
Oh,
So we used
funny.
a rolling pin. So yeah, so my point of all that was if you can't fully extend the hip, then you're not going to get the benefit of doing an exercise that's basically hip extension. So most of y'all should be okay, but that's just kind of my little preface to all this. So yeah, so we're going to go back. We're going to think about pushing through both feet. We want to make sure that we're getting the movement at the hip and not at the lumbar spine. So essentially, on the bridge, what I recommend as far as arm position, you can go here with arms flat. That's going to be your most stable position. Going here with elbows at 90 degrees and pushing through this upper arm is the way that I prefer if we're going with no upper body movement or holding anything. I prefer this position. I feel like it's stable and it allows you to push down into the floor, which I feel helps you get more of a drive up with the hips. So, like I said, it's not that it's better or worse or whatever. It's just what I prefer. So, just a basic two-legged bridge. We're going to get pelvis neutral, so we want to make sure that we're not arching and the low back. So we want to make sure, kind of get that set, and you're going to keep this the whole time. So as you come up, we want to make sure that stays aligned. I can't talk. That stays aligned. Okay? So if you were to come up and try to hyperextend, let me try to do this. I'm not going to do a bunch of them because it's going to hurt. But it'll hurt. You won't want to keep doing it. So if you feel it in your low back, then you're probably losing your pelvic alignment. But yeah, like if you can tell, you know, it looks like I'm arching. I don't know if you can really tell that, but like I said, you'll feel it if you're doing that. So yeah, so we've got a basic two-legged bridge.
Yeah, so even if you can't get as high as you'd like to, if you're doing it correctly, that's okay.
I mean, there's a point where I can't come up any higher than that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a straight line from my knee to my shoulder, okay? I get why people want to try to go as high as they can, but in doing so, you're shifting it back here and away from here.
Okay.
We want it to be here, not here. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so if you can come up to a straight line from your knees to your shoulders, that's all we need. We don't need to go any higher than that. And that goes back to like body awareness and just knowing where to start and stop. You know what I mean? And having someone watch you. So even at home, you know, like if you can't physically be with a trainer or have someone watch you, you can video. Send it to me. I'll assess your bridge.
Oh, yeah.
You know, send me a
Great
video.
idea.
But yeah, so a basic two-legged bridge.
Gina said, hey.
What's
it's
up?
Looking bootyful.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. We got that peach booty. Okay, so yeah. So the progression just basic without any other movement going on with the upper body or holding a load or anything like that. The progression that I like to use is a two-legged bridge. Okay. From here, I like to go to what I call a marching bridge, which is essentially, and again, we've got the arms here. With a marching bridge, what we want to do is make sure that the hips stay up, okay? So in that alignment, right? We don't want at any point, like we don't want to drop down or rotate or do anything crazy. So as you do these, if you're doing them fast, you might not be able to tell if you're doing them poorly. But if you go slow and deliberate, you will notice if you're making if you're losing form. Okay. So with the marching bridge, essentially what we're doing is we're going from 2 feet to 1 foot and coming back.
Fancy.
Okay. So I'm going with a bent knee.
Hey, Tamara. She said,
Tamara?
Junior says good morning.
Oh, get that little dude a hug for me. So yeah, so this is just a basic marching bridge right here. So if you notice, like when you pick up this leg, we don't want anything like that to happen. You'll be able to tell if you have a weakness in this hip if you can't keep the hips up, okay? So a cue that I really like with this particular variation is to think about pushing through the ground on the foot that's down to bring this other leg up.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So push down to bring the leg up. I feel like that, if I have a client that does these kind of, and they're unable to kind of contain all this as well as I would like for them to, I've found that cue right there completely changes it. And I'm not big on verbal cueing, but that's more of a kind of cue that gives people something to do versus just think about it. So that tends to work really well. So 2-legged bridge, marching bridge. After that, okay, so I showed a marching bridge with a bent knee. You could also do a marching bridge where you extend the knee here,
Oof.
which that one is a little bit harder, a little bit different. Okay, so there's that variation as well. Next up would be a single leg bridge. So there's several different ways to go about doing this. I tend to prefer what's called a lumbar lock bridge, which is essentially what we're doing is we're locking in kind of a position so that you don't extend through the lumbar spine. So this is one where people will go, I don't feel like I'm coming up very high, because we're keeping you out of that low back, okay? So with this position, we don't have any ability to go here. So you can always just tuck your knee to your chest and perform a single leg bridge this way. If you need, to push down, like I said, I like that a lot. So we're pushing down to come up. But you can also hug this knee to your chest and perform the movement that way as well. Back in the day, we used to put a tennis ball and have people hold the tennis ball to keep their knee in. But yeah, you can see that range of motion is not that big. I can't come up any higher than that.
Yeah.
Because that's pure glute max.
Tamara wants to know, how do you breathe when doing the bridges?
Good question. Okay.
Great
so
question.
The general kind of I feel like I'm just hanging out. The general cue that I've used for a long time with people as far as most exercises go, there are exceptions, but basically is to exhale upon exertion. So with the bridge specifically, the exertion is going to be essentially the hardest part of the movement. So with the bridge, that's going to be when you're coming up and squeezing. So we're doing the work more, and then the recovery would be coming back down to the ground. So you want to breathe out as you come up, and then get your air back here. Kind of that way. What you don't want to do is hold your breath. So I could say that the worst thing you can do would be holding your breath. If you breathe in the opposite way, it's not going to be the end of the world, but it's just not the preferred way, in my opinion. What happens when you exhale is that you're also going to fire a lot of this good stuff upon breathing your air out, so it can serve to help kind of solidify this core bracing, which is a good thing. So yeah, so when you bridge up, you want to breathe out. On the marching bridges, I would exhale here and then get the air back in. And I said this the other day, I think it was on the ab video I shot last week, about how I don't really like to have people do high reps on a lot of stuff these days. And again, it depends, there's exceptions, we do high reps on some things, but with regard to bridges, I would rather somebody to do 5 on each side or 10 total on the marching bridge slowly than sit here and bang them out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you go slow and deliberate, and again, the word we were using yesterday was mindful.
Mindful.
It makes a huge difference. You can get away with doing less reps, but you actually get more work. I think people tend to think that if you do more reps, you're getting more work, which makes sense because you can quantify it. But it's all about the quality of work. You know what I mean? So yeah, so those are some basic bridge variations right there. If you want to get fancy and add a little upper body movement, if you have a dumbbell or a pair of dumbbells at your disposal, let me grab a pair. You can show how Bo has made a little mess with his toy.
He went to town. Bobo, do you miss your friends?
He misses all of his friends. He's got lots of kisses to give people when we get back. So, okay, so to take those bridges that we just did, we can jazz them up a little bit by doing, I call it just an iso press or an isometric just hold over the chest with any of them. So 2-leg bridge. We could do it with a marching bridge. Okay. So you're just holding the weights in a press position over the chest. I like a neutral grip like this versus that. If you've got kettlebells, they'll naturally go right here with the bell resting back here. From there, the progression I like to, I typically will go from this position to doing a pullover, which I like to use anywhere from 10 to 15 pounds and prefer like a sandbag for this or a bumper plate because it's got a wider grip to it. So I'm just going to show with both dumbbells. But we did these in the Zoom workout this morning. So we're going to do a pullover. So as the hips come up, you bring the weights overhead and then come back to here. So it's crazy how just that action of bringing the weights this way makes your butt burn more.
It does.
You wouldn't think it's that much of a... So the trick on these is to not shrug up. Like I was saying yesterday about keeping the shoulders down on stuff. Try not to shrug up. And again, you can do that with the marching bridge. Another nifty variation, if you've got a pair of dumbbells or kettlebells, is to do like a press. So we can go with let's see, I have to think about this. And you can do it either way. You can press up as your butt comes up and vice versa. So there's no wrong way to do it. And it's not that one's better than the other. It's just they're a little different. So we can go here.
Ooh.
Okay. So I'm keeping neutral pelvis. Or we could go here. Okay. 2 arms at a time. We can also go alternating. And again, we can do that vice versa. I have to think about this. Here. Okay, so we're just adding in a little bit of arm movement and complexity to the basic bridge that way. There's tons of other patterns. I won't go too far down that rabbit hole today because there's a lot.
Yeah, you could like dive.
Yeah, so that gives y'all some bridge options.
Oh, Denise said, I'm still waiting for my glutes to show up. I'll do bridges and see if they arrive.
Denise, you can have some of mine. I got plenty. I popped out of the womb with them.
She really did.
Let me show, okay, so that's giving y'all the glute max. Let's show some side plank. So here's a nifty, in the last week I did show side planks. We did a side plank leg raise that I showed as part of the ab video that I shot last week. Typically, like, so there's some side plank variations. We'll do what I call a side plank clamshell, which is similar to the side plank leg raise that I showed. So side plank, obviously, we want to get the elbow underneath the shoulder. We want this hand gripping the floor, surface area, this lower arm, yeah, I guess you'd say that, forearm on the ground, pressing through that. We want to get into an extended hip position. If you're trying to do like a side plank or like a clamshell here, not good. So you want to get here, okay? So we're in a side plank here. We could actually do a leg raise, which I showed last week, where we're just bringing this top leg up. We're not trying to raise it as high as possible because then we'll kick in all this shit on the lateral torso that wants to help out. We're taking it away from the hip. So this is hitting more of the lateral hip on both the leg that's working as well as the isometric on the bottom.
Does this get what I call your side butt?
Yeah, get your side butt.
All right.
Yeah, so we're getting a little bit more glute meat. So yeah, so we can do a side plank clamshell. You could call this a clamshell, where we're opening and closing. Okay, I'm keeping this chest out, shoulders stacked.
Yeah, you're in a line.
Okay, you can have this arm up if you wish. I know y'all are at home and a lot of y'all don't have sandbags, but I really do prefer to use the ultimate sandbag to pull up against and create tension. It makes everything burn more. So if you have one at your disposal, that's the variation that I would recommend. You can also do a clamshell where we start each rep from the floor and we essentially will come up and then come back down. So it's just a little bit different. It's more, I call that a dynamic clam. So those are good for hitting, like Shan said, like your side butt.
Not to get technical.
Yeah, very technical. Very technical term there. So, why don't we show one more? I've got one. Okay, we'll take it off the ground. Let's do some reaches. So here at the gym, we tend to use cones. Okay, this goes back to, we're throwing this one way back to like 2004, 2005. I've been doing this with clients. I think I mentioned JC Santana on a video last week. I don't remember what we were talking about, but I still use a lot of the stuff that I learned of through him from the mid-2000s today. So he's the one that I got this from, but I know that there's other well-known people that popularized this as well. Probably like Gary Gray. But yeah, JC Santana with the anterior reaches. So what we're going to do is, I guess it doesn't matter if I'm on the mat or not. There's several ways we can slice this. We're going to get crazy. So typically, if we're going to go multi-planar, we got a little reach matrix going on. So if you don't have cones at home, you could use any sort of object that gives you basically this is giving you something to reach towards.
So could you do like sidewalk chalk?
Yeah.
Or something if you're outside with the kids and just mark a space?
You can do that for sure. You don't have to go down and touch where, like you don't have to touch the cone unless you've got the range of motion and the control to do so. So with the idea Shan just brought up of like marking a spot on the sidewalk, you could put a mark where you put your foot, and then it gives you something to reach towards. You don't have to go all the way down to it. So that's a great idea. So what we're going to do is we're going to stand on one foot, okay? Main thing here is that we want to make sure that foot is straight ahead. A lot of times people will want to stand on a foot, which I can't even try to do this, like that, right? Because a lot of people walk like this. We want to get that foot neutral. So foot is straight ahead. So we're going to keep a slight bend in the knee the whole time. You don't want to lock the knee out, okay? So just standing on one leg, okay, if this is challenging for you, then work on that and kind of build that capacity first.
Right.
But if you got the balance going on, then you can do this fun stuff. So basic version would be just reaching in front of the body. So you want to reach with your opposite hand of your stance leg. Yes, you can reach with the same side, but for what we're trying to do, if you reach with your opposite hand. So all I'm going to do is essentially reach and come back up. And I can move the cone closer to me if I needed to, okay? But what you'll notice is this is tricking me into doing kind of a single leg RDL or Romanian deadlift. Okay, I'm sitting back in this hip and coming back up. So we're working on having to stabilize through this hip, and also too, so more importantly for women than guys, although guys do have, can collapse. Valgus collapse is essentially when we go here and knock the knees in, so a knock-knee kind of position. As females, based on our hip structure and so on and so forth, we have a more drastic what's called Q angle. So that's essentially how the femur goes this way. On guys, guys are pretty much like this. Women, we kind of go like that, if that makes sense. So when we stand on one leg, if you're doing this, that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because the hip controls the femur, and then the femur, that's all going to affect the knees. So what do you think is going to be taking the brunt of all that? Poor knee. So we want to be able to strengthen that lateral hip to control the femur so that when we go to do anything throughout our lives, we're not putting those knees at risk. So with that said, as you do these, you want to try to keep that knee, if you're repeatedly letting that knee go here and doing it, try to keep the knee over the foot. So it might help to push the knee out.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not that we're wanting the knee to go out, but to help counter it. Okay? So the basic anterior reach is going to be kind of the way to start this sequence. I like to do what's called a crossbody reach if we're really trying to emphasize the glute with this, because the cool thing is, again, we're standing on the right leg, we're reaching with the left hand, but we're going to go across the body instead of right in the front. We're going to add this just direction this way, which the cool thing is this arm, the reach is actually driving the what's the right word? Driving the, I can't think of the right word. The arm's considered a driver and the reach is considered a driver, okay, in fitness nerd speak. But it's changing the intent, I guess, of this action. So when we reach across the body, what it's going to do is it's going to put a greater stretch on this glute max. So that's kind of neat because I think of it as kind of being like you're preloading it, or you're like drawing a bow and then you contract it.
Yeah.
So you're stretching it a little bit more this way. Boom. So it feels a little bit different.
Those burn after a while.
Yeah, they burn. So if you wanted to do a reach matrix, then we could just set up 3 dots or cones or whatever, and you could take turns. Boop. Go into each one. So on all 3, we're trying to control this femur by using the hip and glute. Okay. So this would be what would be considered to be a more functional glute exercise versus just something that's on the ground, bridging or so on and so forth. So yeah.
Cool.
That's a good one for everybody actually out there. I mean, you don't need anything to do that, and it's a good one.
Booty burn.
Yeah, booty burn. So, does anyone have any questions that popped up?
No.
How long have I been talking today? Oh,
It's been almost.
okay. Yeah, let's close it out.
It's a good one though. I know we've had lots of friends pop in.
So, yeah.
Yeah, work your booties.
I'll shoot another booty video. I'm sure I'll shoot another ab one. We'll have a part 2.
Yes.
So,
Cool.
Bo, come here. Let's say bye to everyone. Bobo got a bath yesterday. He went to the Scrub a Pup. He got a bath. He smells really good.
Aww.
He doesn't smell like Parmesan anymore. Thank y'all for tuning in.
Say bye.
We'll see y'all tomorrow.